This is Alex with Signature Sales and Management, 951rents.com, property management for Corona and the Inland Empire in Southern California. Today we're going to talk about tenant retention. Tenant retention, yes, tenant retention. Retaining your tenants is the key to profitability. I'm sure you can agree with that. Turnover is an ROI killer. Stomps on that cash, right? So what we want to do is to help our existing tenant who might have been with us for a while stay in the property and stay a little bit longer than they might have in the first place. And what we want to do is increase that retention and increase our ability to have a good paying client continue to pay and be in the property for longer. A lot of times when a tenant leaves, they don't really tell you why they're leaving. They're going to give you an excuse. I gotta go back to mom's and save some money. I want to be closer to my daughter's school or work. But what is the real motivation? You may never know. So the interesting thing is, because we don't know why people really leave or the real reason they're leaving, we want to do some things so that they don't think about those reasons, right? We want to get in the way, put up a barrier and say, hey, listen, you're already at home. And the purpose of this is people want a rental to feel like a home. If it feels like a rental, they can just go get another rental. That's not a problem. There's a plenty out there in the market. We'll just file for another and get another rental. But if it's a home, it's hard to leave a home. So let's talk about some ideas about tenant retention. One of them is going to be appliances. Many of the times these appliances in an existing unit aren't up to par. Maybe they've been there for a while. Maybe the tenant has been there for 5 years and the appliance is kind of getting a little old. If there is a trick to the stove, you have to turn it, slap it with some cabbage, kick it 3 times and yell work, it's probably time to get a new appliance or stove, right? We want to make sure that when we put on that stove and it's 360, it actually is 360 and my muffins aren't going to go cold. We want to make sure that all the burners work, and or refrigerator or any appliance really. And they don't have to be swapped out all at once. Sometimes it's just a matter of swapping out one appliance just to make their creature comforts a little bit better. So what we want to do is maybe look at a scratch and dent. Some of these big box retailers have separate retail outlets for scratch and dent and refurbished appliances. These can be very affordable. They can be very cost effective. You put them in, big scratch on the side, it goes in a slot for the stove anyway, no one's gonna see it, everyone happy, right? So look at your appliances, and maybe just doing that can make a tenant stay a little bit longer, knowing that they don't have to move to cook a Thanksgiving meal. The second thing I wanna talk about is paint. A little paint, a little dab goes a long way. So when we look at paint, when we walk into a house and it's just all white and or all tan, that's great and all. But a lot of the times when a tenant moves in or they've been there for a while, the house does not get repainted. Sometimes they might request that a landlord paint the house, or they might request that, hey, can we paint the house? And then there's some approved colors, different story. But consider actually getting in there and painting for the tenant. A, it'll make the house more like a home. B, if they do choose to leave, you have nice fresh painted walls. C, they'll just feel more comfortable and glad that their landlord actually did something for them other than collect the rent. So look at paint. Okay, the third thing I'd like to discuss is paying half. And you say, paying half for what? I'm not talking about little Bobby's medical expenses or anything like that. I'm talking about paying half for things that might benefit you as well, such as paint. Right? Maybe we can offer to, you know what, I'd like to pay for half the paint if you'd like to paint the house. And they would consider, oh, let's make the house a home. Let's make it look nicer. Let's get some approved colors. He's going to pay half. Another thing you might want to consider paying half for is carpet cleaning. So a lot of the times it is the responsibility of the tenant to clean the carpets, but many times they don't clean the carpets. So what ends up happening is when they do leave, you have to clean the carpets and pay for it yourself. It is a good idea. It would behoove you to offer to pay half to clean the carpets. You can do it once a year, you can do it twice a year, whatever budget permits, but helping them to put their feet on a clean carpet, helping you to sustain the longevity of your carpet to last throughout the years, and once again making them a little bit more comfortable in your rental can help all for the better and keep people happy. So a fourth thing I'd like to discuss is reasonable changes. And we can even add number 5, which is property improvements. So let's go to reasonable changes. Sometimes it is paint, right? Sometimes it might be, hey, I'd like to add a workbench in the garage. Do you mind if I overhaul the garage? And if everything's done correctly, they submit plans. Maybe it's structural. A contractor needs to be involved. And as long as things get passed through the city, the tenant wants to pay for it. These are reasonable changes. It can improve the value of the property, and everybody's happy, right? Sometimes it's, in one case, I read that a tenant actually talked to the landlord and had the living room extended into the backyard, creating a great room. Now the house had a small square footage, so they just wanted a little bit more room. Everything was done by a licensed contractor. Everything was approved through the county. Everybody happy, and it does increase the value, likability, and or desirability of the property for later tenants. But it also helped the tenants to say, hey, listen, this landlord's a pretty cool guy. I was willing to pay for everything, everyone happy. So that would be reasonable changes. Now, when we look at the 5th one that I mentioned, property improvements, this is you coming in saying, hey, listen, maybe I plan on selling this place in 5 years. Maybe I don't want to shell out a bunch of cash when these tenants move. Maybe I'm going to do slight property improvements on the way. So maybe it's you coming in and say, hey tenants, do you mind if I put some tile in to replace the carpet? Hey tenants, do you mind if I put some granite counters or a new sink or maybe a new toilet? Believe it or not, toilets can be replaced. And it is these small property improvements that improve the lifestyle and or existence for the existing tenant. It's good for the overall value of the home should you decide to sell, and for future tenants it makes it more desirable and or more appealing when they're looking at your property ad and deciding on a place to live. So consider those. Another thing, this is Alex with Signature Sales and Management. Thank you for watching part 1. There's some great stuff in part 2. Go ahead and click right now.